Hello indie game fans, I have a huge soft spot for the 4-player co-op shooter due to the great time that I had with the original Left 4 Dead, still remembering to this day of how I went to the store to buy it after the last paper of my high school examinations and spending all night playing through it, so here's a look at some fantastic upcoming games in the space. Of course, these tend to be from larger studios due to the sheer amount of work needed to make one of these, which means not so indie games, but we do have quite the selection coming up.
Hello? Nessa! Liu! Lance!
Let's begin with the Anacrusis, a title that made its debut in June during E3, having a group of 4 unwilling combatants trying to protect humanity from an alien threat.
This I do not like.
It's set on board a massive starship which just so happens to be stranded at the edge of space, and in the mix are a mess of humanoid aliens.
What if we open the doors and run? Just run.
I think that the retro futuristic vibe is interesting and does also have some form of AI director that Left 4 Dead was known for, coming to us from some industry veterans who worked on projects that you know of, making it a title of interest.
Heavy. Really? We call them tanks.
I call them brutes. From Latin, Brutus.
We'd sound smart calling them brutes.
Eon, you don't want to get in here and help name these?
Nah, I'm good. Brute!
A series that I don't have any particular affinity for is the Evil Dead franchise, but somehow they're making a 4-player third-person action title with this franchise, starring all your favorite characters and having those iconic weapons.
Hola, cyber friends. I'm Bruce Campbell. You know me as Ash Williams, the dude who saved the world from evil. I'm here to bring you the lowdown on the upcoming Evil Dead the game.
Interestingly, there is multiplayer PvP as well, where some players take control of demons that can possess other humans, which is not entirely necessary in my opinion, but an interesting direction to go in for sure. It does seem more similar to Dead by Daylight in terms of overall vibe, so let's see how this does when it releases. One of the surprises of the year so far seems to be Alien's Fireteam Elite, one that's set in the Aliens universe, which does not have the best track record when it comes to games. Depending on who you ask, this may already have been a big mistake, contrasting the horror element from a solitary xenomorph to just another swarm type enemy does take away some of the mystique, but putting legacy issues aside, does seem to have previewed quite well, making it of interest. Instead of the magic number of 4 players, this instead was built for 3, but there are 5 distinct player classes, various perks and special abilities, an extensive range of weapon mods and 20 plus enemy types, which seems like a decent amount of content, so watch out for the launch really soon.
Welcome to basic training. Rosie.
Here comes Rosie.
A title chugging along nicely in early access is Second Extinction, where, instead of zombies or aliens, has you shooting a bunch of dinosaurs instead. Not only are they dinos, but they are mutant dinos instead, allowing for some more interesting creature design with glowy bits and appendages where they're not supposed to be. The goal of this game is to reclaim Earth, which has been overrun by these creatures, where there is a meta layer to all of these, where the players of the entire game are actually working together to bring down the overall threat level of an area to reclaim it, so you do feel like you're part of a larger community.
Unstoppable.
Early access patches and content drops have been frequent, although controversially, it does have Fortnite-style seasons even while in early access, and does seem to be trending in the Battle Pass or live service type direction, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but something to note if you want to get into this. The show closer for the Microsoft presentation for E3 this year was the reveal that Arkane Studios was working on a co-op shooter named Redfall, one that has you playing as vampire hunters, trying to survive in a sleepy town where this infestation has manifested. We won't sit through the entire trailer since it was all cinematic, but the information from the website confirms that this is a first-person shooter with distinct characters, each with their own special abilities like telekinesis or combat engineer who uses robots. Needless to say, vampires are a type of enemy for this type of game, which is new, so I'm definitely curious about this.
Brothers and sisters, you're hearing my voice because we have reached a crossroads in this war. We know now that no miracle is coming.
Going back to more familiar territory, World War Z Aftermath features our favourite cannon fodder for the genre in zombies, being loosely based on the movie and book that are its namesake, but is an enhanced re-release of the original which launched in 2019. This new version of the third-person shooter adds 2 new cities and campaigns, one having you trying to reclaim the Vatican City from zombies, and another set in snowy Russia, as well as the usual fixes and upgrades, and most interestingly, first-person mode.
Our forces are prepared to take back Rome.
The original was a nice surprise in 2019, where I certainly did not expect it to be any good, so if you have not played it, I would recommend this enhanced version releasing sometime later this year, although owners of the original do not get a free upgrade, instead getting a discount at launch.
Today we claw back from the brink. Today, we make a stand.
You don't belong here, pariah. This world exists in the liminal space between life and death. There is no way back, and only one way forward. The perilous path to Elysium. If you fail, bring me their coins. I will furnish you with great weaponry, and you must fight towards your true end.
Our sole indie title on the list is Perish, coming to us from a team in the UK with one of the more unique looking art styles and colour schemes. It's set in Purgatory, where you're fighting gold-cladded enemies, providing a convenient excuse on how you can trade these corpses in for currency, as you fight your way into paradise in the form of Elysium. The limited colour palette, where everything in gold and black really works, showing how visuals can often be affected by art direction rather than pure fidelity. It taps on Greek mythology, so players of Hades will see some familiar terms, although it does look to draw upon the unexplored colossal deities from there as well, which is new. Combat is not purely limited to guns, but includes melee options like swords and javelins as well, but I'm curious as to how the upgrades and progression in this will work.
The die is cast.
This might have slipped under the radar a little bit, since Payday 3 did actually have a little bit of a showcase at this year's E3 under the weirdly produced Koch Media Primetime Showcase, where of course it was a no-brainer that there was going to be another one of these. Personally, I had a great time with Payday 2, where if you're not familiar, this game has you pulling off crimes like robbing banks, wearing the iconic clown masks, where the footage from this clip is actually from the earlier games. We did only get a teaser image right at the end of the trailer, since 2023 is still quite a ways off, but is supposed to be set in Hollywood rather than Washington DC. Developer Starbreeze did go through some financial difficulties, and were even raided by the Swedish authorities, so as someone who enjoyed their earlier titles, I'm glad that they managed to find their footing. In perhaps one of the most obvious no-brainer moves, developer Fat Shark, who made the awesome first-person co-op action title Vermintide 1 and 2 using the Warhammer Fantasy license, has now turned their attention to the 40k universe with Warhammer 40k Dark Tide.
Master of mankind, may thy light guide us in the darkness. Burn the heretic, kill the mutant, purge the unclean. Master of mankind, grant us strength.
Instead of playing as powerful space marines, or the more powerful races of the 40k universe, this instead has you playing as the Imperial Guard, essentially the cookie cutter humans who are going up against a chaos worshipping cult, where the power of chaos does actually lead to all sorts of mutant monstrosities, adding a little bit of a survival horror feel. Last I checked, Vermintide was still going strong, so I do wonder if this will turn the developer into a 2-game studio, so I am curious to see how this game will turn out. A game which has been gaining quite a bit of momentum in early access is GTFO, the self-described hardcore co-op shooter where a team of prisoners descend deep underground to complete missions for a mysterious entity known as the Warden. In case you're out of the loop, GTFO stands for Get the F Out, where missions here often involve obtaining some sort of item and then extracting or GTFO, but do be warned, this is on the more difficult end of things, where perfect coordination with your friends is a requirement. It's also more stealth-orientated and not all action as seen in the trailer, and does come to us from a number of veteran game developers, including the creative director of Payday 2, so the pedigree is there, making this one to watch.
As cleaners, we've got one objective: take back what's ours.
Come on then!
Things have a funny way of coming around full circle, since 13 years removed from the launch of Left 4 Dead, the same developer, Turtle Rock Studios, is making another 4-player zombie co-op first-person shooter, Back 4 Blood. Essentially Left 4 Dead 3 in all but name, since Valve, for whatever reason, refuses to pull the trigger on any game with a 3 in the title. Some differences are that the infected here are named the Ridden, becoming this way due to a parasite, with 8 customizable characters to choose from, giant 20 feet tall zombies, and a randomized card system that allows you to build your character in every run. The last factor is perhaps the most intriguing part, but expect the usual co-op shooting fun, where I do certainly see the equivalent of the special infected, boomer, hunter, tanks and more in this game. So here's hoping that it's a return to form, taking the #1 spot. If you're interested in retro first-person shooters, watch this video and I will see you after the jump.